Have you ever been at a party? I mean, you're surrounded by friends, you're having an amazing time, but then, by the end of the night, you feel like you just ran a marathon. Well, today, we're going to dig into the science of exactly that, why socializing can be so darn tiring.
You know that feeling, right? The conversation was great, the laughs were real, but the instant you walk through your front door, it's like a switch just flips, and every ounce of your energy is just gone. This isn't you being dramatic, by the way. It's a completely real biological response.
And you are definitely not alone in this. This feeling of being totally mentally drained after social events is so common, it actually has a name: social exhaustion. And it's something pretty much everyone experiences, no matter how much they love being around people.
So what is actually going on inside our heads when we get this social hangover? Why does something that's supposed to be fun and energizing leave us feeling so completely wiped out? Let's get into it.
We throw around this term all the time, right? My social battery is drained. Well, it turns out that's a perfect metaphor. It really does refer to the depletion of your psychological energy when you're interacting with people. It's not physical energy we're talking about, but that mental and emotional fuel.
Look, we all get why a hard workout leaves us tired. Your muscles ache, you're out of breath, it makes sense. But what about just talking? A long conversation doesn't require any physical work, but somehow it can feel just as draining. So what is this invisible mental workout that's leaving us so exhausted?
To solve this mystery, we've got to look inside our own heads. The big scientific clue is all about your brain's super busy and often overloaded schedule during any kind of social event.
And that clue has a name: cognitive load. The easiest way to think about it is like the RAM on your computer. It's the total amount of mental effort your brain is using at any single moment. It's literally the processing power of your mind.
See, when you're just chatting with someone, your brain is juggling a ton of different tasks at once. It's not just about coming up with words. You're also reading their body language, managing how you come across, keeping your own emotions in check, navigating all these unwritten social rules, and trying to pay attention to multiple people at once. All of that mental multitasking creates a huge cognitive load.
But how do we know cognitive load is the real culprit here? Well, scientists came up with a really clever experiment to put it to the test and actually see how it messes with our ability to communicate.
So in this experiment, they had a speaker describe where these colored pegs were on a board. But here's the twist. The listener was looking at the exact same board, but from a completely different angle. That meant the speaker couldn't just say it's on the left, because their left wasn't the listener's left. They had to get creative.
So here's how it worked. First, the speaker describes the pegs. Second, they have to do it in a way the listener, with a different view, can understand. And third, this is the key part, to mimic the mental strain of a real social situation, they asked some speakers to also memorize a string of numbers at the same time. This added to their cognitive load, making an already tricky task even harder. And the results? They were absolutely crystal clear. Just look at this. With no mental load, or just a little bit, the speakers made very few mistakes, only about 3.5 on average. But when they were under a high cognitive load, whoa, the errors skyrocketed to over 10. Their brains were just so busy trying to remember those numbers that they couldn't handle the extra work of taking someone else's perspective into account.
Okay, so now we have our evidence. Let's connect all the dots and finally solve the case of the drained social battery.
The experiment points to a really simple but powerful idea. Our ability to communicate well literally depends on how much mental energy we have available. When our brains get overloaded, we're just way more likely to make mistakes and struggle to connect with people.
So here it is, the big aha moment. Your social battery is your pool of cognitive resources. They're one and the same. When you say you feel drained, you are literally describing a state where your brain's working memory has been pushed to its absolute limit.
And you know what? This idea of cognitive load also helps explain the whole introvert-extrovert thing. It's not that introverts are antisocial or don't like people. It's more that their brains might be wired to process all that social information more deeply. So in a super stimulating place, like a party, that cognitive load can build up way faster, which makes them feel drained sooner than their extroverted friends.
Okay, so we get the why now. Let's move on to the how. What can you actually do about this? Let's build a practical toolkit for managing that precious social energy of yours.
First things first, you gotta set some healthy boundaries. This can be as simple as learning to say no to an invitation when you know you're already feeling fried. Or maybe it just means setting a time limit for yourself at a party. Like, okay, I'm staying for 2 hours, then I'm out. Being proactive like this can stop your battery from hitting zero in the first place.
Recharging your battery is really all about finding things that have a low cognitive load. For some people, that might be getting lost in a good book. For others, it's going for a run or just taking a walk in nature. The key is to figure out what works for you and then actually make time for it. Schedule it in.
And finally, mindfulness. This is such a powerful tool because it directly trains your brain to manage its resources more effectively. When you practice mindfulness, you can lower that baseline stress that adds to your cognitive load, which helps you stay more present and less overwhelmed when you're talking to people.
So let's just wrap this all up. The biggest takeaway here is the shift in thinking. Managing your social energy isn't about avoiding people or becoming a hermit. It's about becoming a smarter manager of your brain's limited and very valuable processing power.
Which really just leaves us with one last thought. You now get the science behind why you feel so drained sometimes. So knowing what you know now, the next time your battery starts to feel low, what's your game plan going to be?